Nobody sells a new TV tray set at Sears anymore. You can still buy one, plastic, wobbly, made overseas, stacked between the clearance shelving and the kitchen gadgets nobody asked for, but the object has lost all cultural weight. A piece of furniture that once sat in 90 million American living rooms, that presidents ate dinner on, that newspaper columnists blamed for the collapse of the American family, is now a $14.99 afterthought at a retailer that barely exists itself. The metal TV tray, 4 trays on a folding rack, tucked in the corner of the den, pulled out every evening at 6 o'clock when Walter Cronkite came on, defined how America ate dinner for 30 years. It moved the meal from the dining room to the living room, from conversation to consumption, from family ritual to individual convenience. And then it disappeared so completely that most people under 40 have never unfolded one. The official story says the TV tray was just a piece of handy furniture that faded when styles changed. The evidence says something different. The TV tray did not fade. It was made irrelevant by the very forces it helped create. And what it took with it was something American families have spent 3 decades trying to get back. The dining room table lost this war. The TV tray won it. And then the TV tray lost it too. To the couch cushion, the coffee table, the car cup holder, the desk at the office, the phone screen at the kitchen counter. Remember those 4 trays on a rack? We are coming back to that rack, empty, at the end. Metal TV tray tables first appeared in national advertising in 1952, 1 full year before Swanson introduced its frozen TV dinner in late 1953. This matters. The furniture arrived before the food. Someone saw the television set taking over the American living room and understood, before Swanson, before the frozen food aisle existed in its modern form, that if Americans were going to watch TV during dinner, they needed a surface. Nobody knows who invented the TV tray. No patent holder has been definitively identified. The design likely evolved from the butler's tray table, a flat surface with handles that clipped onto folding legs, adapted for mass production in stamped metal. The original popular models consisted of a painted metal tray with grips on the underside, a set of tubular metal legs with rubberized tips, and a clip mechanism that held the tray to the legs during storage. A standard set, 4 trays, 1 storage rack, the rack placed in the corner of the living room. Dimensions of the typical tray: 17.5 inches wide, 13 inches deep, 23 inches high when erected. Large enough for a plate, a glass, and a napkin. Small enough to fold flat and disappear when company came over. The timing was surgical. In 1950, only 9% of American households owned a television set. By 1955, that number had reached 64%. By 1960, it was 90%. The TV tray tracked this adoption curve exactly, appearing in 1952 when the television was transitioning from luxury to necessity and reaching peak cultural saturation by the early 1960s, when virtually every American home had both a television and a place to eat in front of it. People over 60 remember a specific ritual with TV trays: the sound of the metal legs unfolding, the slight wobble if you set your glass too close to the edge, the particular warmth of a Swanson dinner tray against the painted metal surface. People under 40 know the TV tray only as a punchline or a thrift store curiosity. That divide tells you everything about what happened between 1955 and 1995. Swanson's first TV dinner hit stores in late 1953. Turkey, cornbread dressing, peas, and sweet potatoes, packaged in a segmented aluminum tray that looked like an airplane meal. Price, 98 cents. The company sold over 10 million units in the first full year of production. By the second year, estimates suggest 25 million. The TV dinner was not designed to be eaten at the dining room table. The name told you where it belonged, and the TV tray was already there, waiting, in 64% of American living rooms by 1955. Manufacturers, Marsh Allen Manufacturing Company, among others, produced trays decorated with everything from nature scenes to party motifs to eventually television characters themselves. A set of four typically cost between $2 and $4 in the mid-1950s, depending on the retailer and the design. They were impulse purchases, they were housewarming gifts, they were the furniture equivalent of fast food, designed not to replace the dining table, but to offer an alternative on busy nights. The Eisenhowers ate dinner on tray tables in the White House while watching the evening news. J.B. West, who served as Chief Usher from 1957 to 1969, documented this in his memoir, The President and First Lady, Trays Deployed, Watching Television in the Residence Upstairs. Nearly 3 decades later, a photograph from November 6, 1981, shows Ronald and Nancy Reagan doing the same thing in the White House second-floor study. TV trays on either side of matching chairs, the evening news on the screen, 2 different presidents, 2 different decades, 2 different parties, same furniture, same ritual, same migration away from the formal table. Here is what the official narrative gets wrong. The TV tray was not a neutral piece of furniture. It was a mechanism. It physically restructured how American families occupied the same room. At a dining table, you face other people. The architecture of the furniture demands interaction, eye contact, conversation, passing dishes, shared space. A dining table seats 6 or 8 facing inward, toward each other. A TV tray points you forward, toward the screen. You sit in parallel, not in dialogue. Each person has their own surface, their own meal, their own isolated eating experience that happens to occur in the same room as other people doing the same thing. The TV tray converted family dinner from a social event into a series of simultaneous solo events. Newspaper columnists noticed immediately. A 1955 article in the St. Cloud Times ran under the headline, "What's Wrong with Family Life? Maybe the TV Tray." A member of the National Congress of Parents and Teachers told the paper, "Eating today is largely off the snack bar, or the corner of the kitchen sink, or a TV tray, or maybe a sandwich on the run. At the dining table, the family meets together. Conversation comes naturally, and each member learns to accept the opinions of others without getting upset about it." 2 years after that warning, a journalist at Oklahoma's Broken Arrow Ledger described visiting a home where the television set was the center of all family life, the rug around it stained with mustard and ketchup, a full set of TV trays, and an ample supply of TV dinners in the refrigerator. The reporter concluded that the children in this household would never learn to read at home. The warnings were loud, they were specific. They came from educators, from clergy, from parent organizations, and they changed nothing. The TV tray kept selling. Because it was cheap, because it was easy, because after a 10-hour workday, nobody wanted to set a formal table and sit upright for 45 minutes when they could collapse into a chair, unfold a tray, and disappear into a screen. If that sequence, exhaustion, convenience, screen, isolation, sounds familiar in 2026, it should. The TV tray was the first hardware in a pattern that has only accelerated. What killed the TV tray was not a rejection of its purpose. It was the completion of its purpose. The TV tray succeeded so completely at moving American eating away from the formal table that the formal table itself began to disappear. By the late 1980s, new home construction was already reflecting the shift. Open floor plans eliminated the separate dining room. The kitchen island replaced the dining table as the primary food surface. The living room couch, positioned permanently in front of an ever larger television, became the default eating location, not as an occasional convenience, but as the norm. And once eating in front of the TV was no longer a special occasion requiring special furniture, once it was just how everyone ate every night, you did not need a folding tray, you had a coffee table, you had wide couch arms, you had the kitchen counter 6 feet away. The TV tray was designed for a transition. Once the transition was complete, the transitional object was unnecessary. Family dinner time at the table declined by more than 30% over 3 decades, according to data cited by the American College of Pediatricians. The decline did not begin with smartphones or the internet. It began with the TV tray. Specifically, it began in 1952, when someone figured out that a stamped metal surface on folding legs could reroute the most important daily ritual in American domestic life. If that reframe changes how you see the TV tray, not as innocent furniture but as the first tool in a decades-long dismantling of shared mealtime, hit like on this one. It tells us to keep looking at the objects hiding in plain sight. The cascade went like this, and it went fast. First, the tray moved dinner to the living room. Then the frozen dinner made cooking optional. Then the microwave, mainstream by the late 1970s, made even the oven optional. Then fast food drive-thrus made leaving the house faster than heating a Swanson tray. Then delivery apps made even the drive-thru unnecessary. Each step removed one more element of shared effort from the meal. The TV tray removed the shared table. The frozen dinner removed the shared preparation. The microwave removed the shared timing. Now each family member could eat whenever they wanted, in 90 seconds, alone. The drive-thru removed the shared space entirely. By the time the smartphone arrived, the TV tray was already obsolete, not because Americans had returned to the dining table, but because the living room couch with a phone screen had achieved everything the TV tray promised, without the folding legs. What happened to the manufacturers? Marsh Allen, which had been producing metal trays since the company's founding in the late 1920s, shifted its product line toward outdoor cooking accessories and grill equipment. The hand-painted decorative metal tray, a domestic art form that tracked aesthetic trends from mid-century modern to psychedelic 60s to earth-tone 70s, gave way to injection-molded plastic surfaces in generic wood-grain patterns. By the 1990s, the TV tray was not a designed object. It was a utility item, and not a very necessary one. I read a 1957 article from the News Review that called the TV tray probably the greatest boon to be set beside the relaxing American. Greatest boon. That was the language. That was the optimism. A folding metal table was going to make American domestic life better, easier, more relaxed. Nobody in 1957 was asking what it might cost to eat every meal facing forward instead of facing each other. There is a photograph in the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History collection. Object number NMAH1413217. A set of 4 black metal TV tray tables from the mid-1960s, decorated with a party theme pattern, green, red, blue, and yellow ribbon stripes over a confetti background. The trays fold flat. The rubber grips still hold. A family bought these trays sometime around 1965. They unfolded them hundreds of times, maybe thousands. Dinners in front of Ed Sullivan, in front of Bonanza, in front of the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. The trays held casseroles and canned vegetables and Salisbury steak and glasses of milk and coffee cups and ashtrays. They held all of that weight for years, and then they were folded up one last time and put away. Eventually, they ended up in a museum, behind glass, labeled as an artifact of a specific American era. The museum's description notes that TV tray tables became an alternative to the family dinner table. Alternative. That is the polite word. The accurate word is replacement. If you grew up in the 1970s or 1980s and your family ate in front of the television most nights, your relationship to the dining table is fundamentally different from your grandparents' relationship to it. You may not own a dining table. You may own one and use it as a desk. You may eat most meals standing at the counter, or in the car, or at your keyboard. None of this happened because you made a choice. It happened because a pattern was set in 1952 and reinforced every year for 4 decades until it became invisible. The TV tray trained 2 generations to face forward instead of facing each other, and then those generations raised children who never knew there was a different direction to face. The metal folding TV tray is still manufactured. You can buy a set of 4 on Amazon for $30. Plastic surfaces, thin legs, particle board imitation wood. The storage rack is still included. Retro-styled metal trays, reproductions of 1950s floral patterns, sell on Etsy for $40 to $60 per set, marketed as vintage decor. Vogue ran a piece asking whether we were ready for the return of the TV tray, framing it as a design trend for small apartments. The article missed the point entirely. The TV tray never left. It just stopped being a piece of furniture and became a behavior. Every couch armrest holding a plate. Every lap holding a phone while hands hold a fork. Every meal eaten in motion, in transit, in parallel with a screen. The TV tray's function won. Its form became unnecessary. We do not do surface-level nostalgia on this channel. We follow the object to what it actually changed. If that level of honesty is what you come here for, subscribe. More of this is coming. Here is where the TV tray sits now in the American story. Research from the American Survey Center shows that 74% of Americans over 50 without college education report eating family meals every day during their childhoods. The numbers dropped significantly for younger cohorts. Family dinners became slightly more common between 2003 and 2012, and again around 2016 to 2021. Small corrections in a decades-long decline. Each correction coincided with a cultural movement back toward the table. The farm-to-table movement, the family dinner advocacy campaigns, the parenting books about reclaiming mealtime. Each correction is a conscious effort to undo what one stamped metal folding table made effortless in 1952. That is the weight of the object, not 2 pounds of painted steel on tubular legs. The weight of a behavioral shift that took 70 years to recognize and will take longer to reverse, if reversal is even possible when every screen in the house is now a television, and every surface is now a TV tray, and every meal is now a TV dinner, whether it comes from a freezer or a delivery driver. 4 trays, 1 folding rack, corner of the living room, next to the lazy boy, across from a 19-inch zenith with rabbit ears. Nobody designed this object to dismantle the family dinner. It was a convenience. A folding table that cost less than a restaurant meal. A clever piece of stamped metal that solved a simple problem. Where do I put my plate while I watch Gunsmoke? But furniture shapes behavior. Behavior shapes culture. And culture, once shifted, does not shift back without force. The dining room table is still in the house, in some houses, but the habit of sitting at it, all at once, facing each other, talking instead of watching, is the thing that folded up and never quite unfolded again. Those 4 trays in the Smithsonian, with their party confetti pattern, and their rubber grips, and their tubular metal legs, held more than plates. They held the exact moment American domestic life pivoted from inward to forward, from each other to the screen, from conversation to content. The rack stands empty now, not in the museum, in the culture. We took the trays off one by one, replaced them with nothing, and never put anything back.